Back in the 1930s, young black kids were blatantly used for Stalin's propaganda machine. But fast forward to today, and we've got black people in Russia becoming basketball stars turned TV icons, jazz legends, and Russia's first elected black official. Sounds shocking, right? Let's count down the 8 richest black families that made it big in Russia. And trust me, the family at number 1 will absolutely floor you. Number 8. The Conga family. Let's kick things off with a certified trailblazer who made Russian television say things it had never said before, and did it with style. Born in 1962 in Moscow to Abdullah Khanga, a Zanzibari politician, and Lily Golden, an Afro-American sociologist, Elena Khanga grew up straddling African and Soviet cultures in ways most people can't even imagine. Her maternal lineage alone is fascinating. Lily Golden was politically active and intellectually sharp, instilling in Elena a sense that she could operate in any space. After earning a journalism degree from Moscow State University in 1984, Elena worked for the Moscow News and became the first Soviet journalist sent on an American exchange, working with the Christian Science Monitor in Boston from 1987 to 1988. Just picture that. A black Soviet journalist in late 80s America, navigating Cold War tensions and cultural whiplash simultaneously. But her real impact came back in Russia. From 1997 to 2000, Elena hosted Pro Ito, About That, on NTV, Russia's first public forum covering HIV/AIDS, homosexuality, sexual harassment, and other topics that were absolutely taboo. She famously quipped during the show's debut that its impact was like a bomb went off in Russia, and she wasn't exaggerating. This was groundbreaking, uncomfortable television that forced conversations the Kremlin would have preferred to avoid. She later co-hosted Princip Domino from 2001 to 2006 and worked for RT, continuing to push boundaries. In 1994, she co-authored the memoir Soul to Soul with Susan Jacoby, recounting her family's story with unflinching honesty. On the personal side, Elena married political consultant Igor Mintusov in 2002. So yeah, she's connected to Russia's political machinery, and they have one daughter. The family lives primarily in Moscow, but maintains a home in New York. Elena holds dual Russian-US citizenship, which gives her flexibility most Russians don't have. After decades of national TV work and writing, she lives a wealthy life with her husband and is considered one of the richest black individuals living in Russia. But as groundbreaking as Elena was in the media world, our next family proved you don't always need a TV camera to change hearts and minds. Number 7. The Sagbo family. Jean Gregoire. Sagbo, or let's just call him Jean, did something in 2010 that sounds impossible. He became Russia's first elected black official. Not appointed or symbolic, but actually elected by regular Russian voters in a small town. And the path to reach there? It's wild. Born in 1959 in Cotonou, Jean came to the USSR in 1982 to study economics in Moscow. Standard Cold War stuff. African students flooding Soviet universities for education. But Jean didn't do the standard thing. He married a local Russian woman, Svetlana, and settled in this tiny town called Novozavidovo in Tver Oblast, about 2 hours northwest of Moscow. But here's the kicker. Jean didn't campaign for office at all. He didn't hire consultants or run attack ads. He just planted flowers, cleaned streets, fixed up derelict lots, and turned them into parks. Did volunteer work for years while working as a real estate agent to pay bills. The town council seat was unpaid, so this wasn't some power grab but genuine community service. And in 2010, the villagers looked around and said, "You know what? That guy who's been making our town nicer for years? Let's elect him." Boom. History made. Media went absolutely bonkers, calling him Russia's Obama, which Jean himself found exhausting and reductive. Like, he's his own person, you know? He later joined the Konakovsky District Assembly in 2015 and championed immigrant rights and cultural exchange, basically saying, hey, maybe we should treat newcomers like human beings. Revolutionary stuff, apparently. Jean died in late December 2024 at age 65 from natural causes and was buried in Benin. He's survived by Svetlana and their 2 sons, Jean-Maxime and Serge, who carry forward a legacy that's about proving that integration actually works when you meet people where they are. Apart from the money he's earned, the Sagbo family's real fortune is showing that you can be visibly different and still earn genuine respect through actions instead of words. But if planting flowers sounds humble, imagine commanding a stage at the Vakhtangov Theater and making Russia's cultural elite forget you were ever supposed to be different in the first place. Number 6. The Siyatvinda family. Grigory Davidovich. Siyatvinda is what happens when Zambia meets Tumen and produces one of Russia's most respected actors. And he did it without compromising or getting typecast into oblivion. Born in 1970 in Tumen, to a Russian mother and Zambian father who'd come to study in the USSR during the 1960s, Grigory's early life was split between continents. He lived in Zambia from ages 2 to 5 before his parents divorced, and he returned to Tumen with his mother. That kind of childhood, bouncing between radically different cultures, either breaks you or makes you incredibly adaptable. Grigory went the adaptable route. He initially trained in engineering, which is the most practical Russian thing ever, but soon realized his calling was acting. He graduated from the prestigious Shukin Theater Institute in Moscow in 1995 and joined the Vakhtangov Theater, one of the most respected theater companies in Russia. And then he just started winning. In 2003, Grigory earned a state prize of Russia for powerful performances in both classical and modern plays. A state prize isn't some participation trophy, it's the government saying, "You're legitimately excellent at this." He became a TV and film star with roles in popular films like Dead Man's Bluff and The Geographer Drank His Globe Away, plus the hit series Conga, where he played hotel manager Gebre Selassie. He also hosted NTV's Ice Age, showing his range beyond acting. In 2006, he was named Honored Artist of Russia, another major recognition. And here's what's cool. Grigory managed to be successful without being pigeonholed into the black guy roles. He played complex, varied characters across genres. He married ballet dancer Tatiana Siyatvinda in 2006. So yes, power couple energy. And they have no children. He lives in Moscow, his base for theater and film work, and also teaches acting, passing on his craft to younger generations. Grigory Siyatvinda has had a steady and successful entertainment career, and although his wealth details aren't public, the Siyatvinda family's real value is representation. Grigory helped normalize Afro-Russian faces in mainstream media, proving you could be visibly different and still be seen as simply Russian. No drama, no controversies, just consistent excellence. So now we've covered artists, politicians, and actors. But what about someone who did it all? Sports, TV, and becoming the face of multicultural Russia. Number 5. The Kiru family. Ola Kiru is the definition of a second-generation success story. Born in Russia, raised in Russia, and becoming one of the most recognizable Afro-Russian public figures without any Cold War symbolism attached. Born in 1984 in Rostov-on-Don to a Nigerian father who'd studied in the USSR and a Russian mother, Ola's upbringing was textbook post-Soviet struggle. His parents separated early, and he was largely raised by his mother and grandmother in southern Russia during the chaotic 1990s. Imagine being a visibly black kid in a provincial Russian city during that era. Ola has openly discussed experiencing both intense curiosity and discrimination, which shaped how he navigated identity and belonging later. Basketball became his outlet. Standing well over 6 feet tall, he played as a guard/forward in Russia's professional basketball system, including clubs in the Russian Super League structure. He wasn't NBA-bound, but he had a respectable domestic career that provided solid income through salaries, sponsorships, and local endorsements. Professional basketball in Russia doesn't generate oligarch money unless you're EuroLeague level, but it's upper-middle-class comfortable. Then Ola made the smart pivot. Television. His charisma and distinctive appearance made him a natural fit for Russian media. He appeared on multiple reality shows and celebrity competitions, including dance formats, becoming a familiar face on entertainment channels. This is where his earning potential exploded. TV appearance fees, brand promotions, modeling work, event hosting, and commercial partnerships all stacked up. While there are no verified net worth estimates, His long-term presence in sports and television suggests stable upper-middle-class financial status by Russian entertainment standards. He's lived primarily in Moscow, where Russia's sports and media industries are concentrated, and developed recognition across multiple demographics: sports fans, reality TV audiences, and young urban viewers. What makes Ola significant beyond his career is representation. He's one of the first post-Soviet Afro-Russian personalities who achieved visibility without being tied to propaganda or political narratives. His presence coincided with Russia becoming more exposed to global culture and diversity, and he became part of that shift. He's occasionally spoken about race and belonging in Russia, though usually measured rather than activist level. The Kiru family, including Ola's several siblings, one of whom also pursued a public-facing career, helped show that you could be fully Russian and fully Black simultaneously. That might sound simple, but in a country still figuring out its relationship with diversity, it's revolutionary. Now, sports and TV fame are impressive, sure, but the next family didn't just entertain Russia, they gave it a voice it didn't even know it was missing. Number 4. The Pierre-Marie family. Victoria. Pierre-Marie is what happens when Cameroon meets Moscow and produces a voice the Russian press genuinely called the granddaughter of Ella Fitzgerald. And honestly, that's not even hype. Born in 1979 to a Cameroonian gynecological surgeon father and a Russian medical doctor mother who happened to be the daughter of a noted painter, Victoria came from intellectual royalty. But here's the gut punch. She lost both parents in childhood. Sources vary on the details, but most reports suggest she ended up in an orphanage, which makes everything that follows even more remarkable. Instead of letting that break her, Victoria threw herself into music with an intensity that borders on obsessive. She mastered the tuba first. Yes, the tuba, not exactly the sexiest jazz instrument, before pivoting to vocals at the Gnesin School and Moscow Institute of Contemporary Arts. And then she just dominated. As a teenager, Victoria was racking up wins like she was collecting Pokémon cards. Grand Prix at the Casablanca Jazz Festival, first place at Prague's Music of the World Festival, and 2 gold medals at the 1996 World Championship of Performing Arts in Los Angeles. 2. Gold medals. While most of us were figuring out AIM screen names, she was on international stages making grown adults weep with her voice. The Russian media went wild, dubbing her both the Russian Tina Turner and Ella's granddaughter in the same breath. She fronted the Pierre-Marie Band, toured internationally, and landed starring roles in massive musical productions like Chicago and We Will Rock You. She also taught at the Institute of Contemporary Arts, passing on that fire to the next generation. What's fascinating about Victoria is how she's stayed relatively private despite her fame. No public net worth estimates, no tabloid scandals, no messy divorces plastered across headlines. She's unmarried, keeps her circle tight, and lets the music do the talking. She even headlined a joint concert with Cornelia Mango in St. Petersburg, bridging generations of Afro-Russian artists. Now, jazz royalty is eternal indeed, but our next story is a reminder that not every brilliant life gets a happy ending. And sometimes tragedy reveals truths a society would rather ignore. Number 3. The Ramalio family. At number 3 sits a family whose story starts with Brazilian samba and ends in tragedy that Russia still hasn't fully reckoned with. Tito Ramalio was born in 1951 in Leningrad to Tito Ramalio Sr., an Afro-Brazilian actor who'd made his way to the USSR. Think about that timeline for a second. This is Cold War Soviet Union we're talking about. Not exactly known for its diversity. But young Tito? He was on screen at age 5, following his father's footsteps into a world that simultaneously celebrated and tokenized him. Here's where it gets interesting. Ramalio trained at the Vaganova Ballet Academy, one of the most prestigious ballet institutions on the planet. After his military service, because yes, Soviet life meant everyone served, he joined the Druzhba dance ensemble in the 1970s. But here's the kicker. He was almost always cast as the black character, essentially playing the same role his father had been pigeonholed into. It's like Hollywood typecasting, but with more fur hats and less subtlety. By the 1990s and 2000s, Ramalio had pivoted to teaching dance and co-founded a children's theater called Globus. He was building something real, something lasting. He married Elena, led college dance troupes, and was basically that cool teacher everyone remembers fondly. But in May 2010, everything shattered. Ramalio was killed during a robbery attempt in St. Petersburg. Some punk tried to steal his cell phone and beat him so severely that he died. Investigators later suggested racial bias might have motivated the attack, which, yeah, that's the uncomfortable truth Russia still struggles with. The killer was convicted of murder, but it doesn't bring back a man who'd spent decades enriching Russian arts. The Ramalio family's wealth wasn't measured in rubles since Tito was a working artist instead of an oligarch. But their cultural currency? It's immeasurable. They helped normalize Afro-Russian faces in Soviet and Russian performance art for over half a century, even when the system wanted them in very specific boxes. But as tragic as that ending was, our next family turned grief into gold, literally transforming personal loss into a jazz empire that conquered Europe. Number 2. The Mango family. Let's talk about Cornelia Mango, the pop/R&B sensation who turned reality TV fame into a multi-decade empire and became one of Russia's most beloved voices. Born in 1986 in Astrakhan to a Tatar mother and a father of Spanish/Portuguese roots, Cornelia initially trained as a painting instructor. Yes, she's got formal art education before the music industry came calling. She burst onto the scene in 2006 through the reality show Fabrika Zvyozd 7, Star Factory, produced by the legendary Mlodzi brothers, who basically ran Russian pop music at the time. Her musical style is this incredible fusion of soul, R&B, jazz, and house that Russia hadn't really heard domestically before. After Fabrika, she toured relentlessly and recorded singles that climbed charts. In 2011, she scored a major pop duet hit with Praznik K Nam Prikodit, which was everywhere that year. Radio, clubs, TV, you couldn't escape it. But Cornelia didn't just stick to music. She appeared on numerous Russian TV projects, including Posledny Geroi as basically a Russian survivor, Bolshy Gonki, which was a racing show, and the dance competition Tancy So Zvyozdami in 2011. This multi-platform presence kept her relevant and expanded her earning streams significantly. She married fellow artist Bogdan Durd, and they have one child, creating this artistic power couple dynamic. But here's where Cornelia shows her depth. In 2013, she revealed her diabetes diagnosis publicly and started a popular blog sharing lifestyle tips for diabetics. Instead of hiding a health struggle, she turned it into advocacy and community building, which massively endeared her to fans. In 2024, yes, this year, Cornelia returned to primetime on NTV's show Superstar, Voзвrasheni, a contest for pop stars from the 1980s through the 2000s. She's proof that you can have longevity in an industry that usually chews people up and spits them out. While there are no public wealth rankings for Cornelia, her moderate to high fame over nearly 2 decades suggests a very comfortable financial situation. Think brand deals, royalties, appearance fees, and concert revenue all compounding. Her music has that youthful pop/R&B flavor with Afrobeat rhythms that appeals to younger Russian audiences while maintaining cross-generational appeal. The Mango family's real wealth is cultural staying power. In an entertainment landscape that's notoriously fickle, Cornelia has remained relevant, beloved, and influential for nearly 20 years. She brought Afrobeat and R&B into mainstream Russian pop consciousness, paved the way for other mixed heritage artists, and did it all while raising a family and managing a chronic illness publicly. From tragedy to triumph, let's head to the #1 spot and meet a family that took every challenge Russia threw at them and turned it into chart-topping anthems and a fan base that spans generations. Number 1. The Patterson Family. And now, let me introduce you to a man whose backstory is perhaps the most bizarre in this list. James Lloydovich. Patterson's life reads like Cold War fan fiction, except it's completely real and somehow even stranger than fiction. Born in 1933 in Moscow to an American father and Russian mother, little James, nicknamed Jimmy, became a Soviet child star at age 3. In 1936, he starred in the musical film Circus, playing the mixed-race son of lead actress Lyubov Orlova. The film was anti-racist Soviet propaganda, basically Stalin saying, "Look how progressive we are," while simultaneously running a dictatorship. Film historians today call it a false confection of idealized race relations, which is academic speak for propaganda wrapped in a bow. But here's the twist. After the film and his father's death in 1942, Patterson was raised in a military academy. He graduated from the Riga-Nakhimov Naval School in 1951 and joined the Soviet Navy as a submarine officer. A submarine officer. This child actor was cruising around underwater during the Cold War, eventually rising to the rank of captain. He later joked that he might have climbed higher if Stalin hadn't died in 1953, which is both dark and hilarious. Alongside his naval career, Patterson became a poet and writer. In the 1960s, he published poetry collections like Russia, Africa, 1963, and got admitted to the USSR Union of Writers. He even earned an MA from the Maxim Gorky Literature Institute. Despite his early fame, the Soviet film industry offered 0 roles for black adults, so his acting career died with his childhood. After the Soviet Union collapsed, Patterson and his mother moved to the US in the 1990s. He spent his final years in Washington, D.C., quietly writing until he passed away in 2025 at age 91. He married Irina Tolokonikova late in life but had no children. What's heartbreaking is that Patterson expressed lifelong frustration at being remembered primarily as a child actor. He did all this other stuff, naval service, poetry, literature, but people just wanted to talk about circus. In interviews, he said life in the USSR valued his black heritage more than segregated America, which, think about what that says about both places. The Patterson family's wealth was cultural, not financial. James became a symbol of early Afro-Russian identity, even if the circumstances were manufactured propaganda. And there you have it. 8 black families who fundamentally changed what it means to be Afro-Russian. From Stalin-era child stars to modern pop icons, from small-town politicians to national TV trailblazers, these families prove that influence isn't about fitting in. It's about showing up authentically and refusing to be erased. If this opened your eyes even a little bit, smash that like button and subscribe to Black Status for more such stories that don't make it into traditional history books. Drop a comment telling me which family surprised you most. I'm genuinely curious. And hey, share this with someone who needs to know that representation has always mattered, even in the most unexpected places. Catch you in the next one.